Cardi B was allegedly rushed to the hospital after another asthma attack at her Denver show, and footage of her needing an oxygen mask backstage has the internet buzzing. The rapper was seen struggling to breathe, hooked up to an oxygen tank, and given her history with asthma, fans are understandably worried about her health. In this video, we'll break down what allegedly happened in Denver, how serious this attack could be, and what it might mean for Cardi's future performances. On the night of Monday, March 9, 2026, Cardi B performed a sold-out show at Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado, as part of her Little Miss Drama Tour. The rapper brought down the house in front of a sold-out crowd at Ball Arena in Denver on Monday night, but she needed an extra boost of oxygen between songs. What happened next was captured on camera. An Instagram story posted Monday night shows Cardi B breathing from an oxygen tank during a costume change backstage during her Denver concert. The footage was not subtle. It was Cardi, visibly out of breath, pulling oxygen from a mask while her team worked around her, getting her into her next outfit. She said her piece while other people appeared to lace her up in a red beaded and feathered corset. The caption she put on the video, "Bitch, this air ain't no joke." Cardi B wrote in the caption of a video in her Instagram stories late Monday night, and in the clip itself, you can hear her react to the conditions in real time. Panting, she yells, "Denver! Denver is fucking different," before adding a woo. Now, for those who do not know, Denver is called the Mile High City for a reason. Denver is also known as the Mile High City due to its official elevation of exactly a mile. The altitude can make breathing harder for some people, especially those not acclimated to the elevation, as the air is thinner. That is 5,280 feet above sea level. The air up there has less oxygen in it compared to cities at lower elevations. For someone performing a high-energy concert, dancing, rapping, running across a stage, that thinner air hits different. And for someone with asthma, it can hit even harder. Performing at higher elevations could be especially tricky for people with asthma, like Cardi B. Now let's be clear about something. Cardi B was not the first artist to struggle in Denver's altitude. She is hardly the only musician to note the impacts of performing at 5,280 feet in elevation. In 2014, Lady Gaga got altitude sickness while in Denver for a concert. Bands often comment on being out of breath during their set or preparing for shows in Colorado, with a healthy dose of O. Simple Plan's drummer, Chuck Como, has talked about this exact issue. Chuck Como, drummer for rock band Simple Plan, told Fox 31 last year that he runs, and in Denver he feels the elevation. And the band's guitarist, Jeff Stinko, pointed out that our singers complain about it quite a bit. So it is a known challenge. The altitude catches people off guard, and if your job is to perform for 2 hours nonstop in front of thousands of people, your lungs are going to feel it. But for Cardi B, the Denver altitude was not just a minor inconvenience. It was layered on top of a condition she has dealt with since childhood, and that is where the story starts to go deeper. The footage of Cardi on the oxygen mask spread fast across social media. My mixtape has tweeted the clip, noting that Cardi B was forced to use an oxygen mask backstage at her Denver show because of the high altitude, and quoting her line about Denver air being a different type of MF air. That post went viral. The Grammy Award-winning artist had just concluded an energetic set before a packed crowd. In Colorado City, when backstage footage surfaced online, showing her briefly using an oxygen mask, fans reacted with a mix of concern and support. Some worried about her health. Others pointed out that she still finished the show, which says something about the kind of performer she is. Monday's concert was her 14th consecutive sold-out show. That is 14 nights of performing at a level that would tire out most people. And she did not cancel this one. She did not cut the set short. She strapped on an oxygen mask during a costume change and went back out there. But it raised the question that a lot of fans have been asking since the tour started. How long can Cardi push this hard with a condition like asthma? Is she going too hard? And should we be worried? The thing about Cardi B and asthma is this. It is not new, and it is not mild. This goes back to when she was a child growing up in the Bronx. Her asthma has been documented publicly for years, and the people closest to her story have spoken about just how bad it was. As a young child, Cardi battled serious health issues. Cardi B has had really bad asthma basically her whole life. Sean Sitaro, associate editor at Complex, revealed, when she was a kid, she was in and out of the hospital. Her mother used to worry that Cardi would catch an asthma attack in her sleep and die. Read that again. Her own mother feared she would die from an asthma attack in her sleep. That is the level of severity we are talking about. This was not a child who needed an inhaler once in a while. This was a child who was in and out of hospitals, whose family lived with the fear that one bad night could be the last one. Asthma, for those who may not know, is a chronic condition. Asthma attacks involve obstruction of the air passages in the lungs, which reduces the ability of the person to inhale life-sustaining oxygen into the body. The airway obstruction is caused by spasm and tightening of the airway muscles, and inflammation, which causes both swelling of the walls of the air passages and mucus or phlegm blocking the airways. It is not something that you grow out of, and it is not something that just disappears because you become rich or famous. Asthma is not permanently curable, but it can be well controlled with medication and lifestyle changes. That is the medical reality. You manage it, you control it, but you do not beat it. Asthma attacks cause great distress for sufferers, their families, and their careers. Asthma attacks may result in hospital admission and, in some cases, death. That line, and in some cases death, is the part that makes what we saw in Denver more than just a viral clip. It is a reminder that asthma is not a joke. It is a condition that kills people, and Cardi knows this. She has always been transparent about it. When she was preparing for the Little Miss drama tour, she talked about it openly. She said, "I can't perform like Beyonce, but her show proves it's like you can't half-ass nothing," before emphasizing, "I have asthma. My fans know I got asthma. They know I gotta take a water break, but I'm going to give it my all." That quote tells you everything you need to know about how Cardi approaches her condition. She does not try to hide it. She does not pretend she can do what everyone else does. She is aware of her limitations, and she is honest about them, but she also refuses to let it stop her. When she said, "My fans know I got asthma," she was doing something that most celebrities do not do. She was setting expectations. She was telling people before a single tour date that there would be moments where she needs to pause. She was telling them not because she was making excuses, but because that is her reality. Now fast forward from that interview to the tour itself. Cardi B went into this tour knowing it would test her body. She said she would give it her all, and that is exactly what she has been doing. But Denver showed what happens when her all meets an environment that does not cooperate. She said, "I feel like my personal tour is not going to be like any of the performances that I've ever had, from the aesthetics and looks, even from the way I perform. Because even when I rehearse for a show, I rehearse for like a week or two. But I'm going to be rehearsing for months for a tour." She prepared. Cardi B has been preparing for her tour by focusing on her health and fitness, and drawing inspiration from concerts by artists like Madonna and Beyonce. She watched other artists' tours. She studied how they structured their shows. She took notes from Madonna's Celebration World Tour and Beyonce's Cowboy Carter Tour. She did the work, but asthma does not care how much you prepared. When the air gets thin, the lungs respond accordingly. To understand how big of a deal the Denver incident is, you need to understand the scale of what Cardi B is doing right now. The Little Miss Drama Tour is not a small run of shows. It is the biggest tour of her career. Cardi B announced her first tour in 6 years, Little Miss Drama Tour, in support of her highly anticipated second studio album, Am I the Drama, out this Friday, September 19th via Atlantic Records. The 30-plus date arena run kicked off on Wednesday, February 11th in Palm Desert, CA, at Acrisure Arena and includes stops across North America. In Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Vancouver, Austin, Chicago, New York, Toronto, Philadelphia, and more, before wrapping up on Friday, April 17th and Saturday, April 18th in Atlanta, GA, at the award-winning State Farm Arena. Little Miss Drama Tour marks Cardi B's first full headline arena run, and the biggest tour of her career to date. The tour will see her headline iconic venues for the very first time, including the Kia Forum in Los Angeles and Madison Square Garden in her hometown of New York City. Think about what that means. This is a woman who has not been on a full tour in 6 years. This is her first major North American arena tour in 6 years. She went from doing select shows and festival appearances to headlining arenas across the continent. And she did it while managing a condition that makes breathing, the most basic function of performing, harder than it is for most people. The tour kicked off in February 2026, and the early results were historic. In February 2026, Cardi B became the first female rapper in history to sell out 2 consecutive nights at the Kia Forum in Inglewood, California. The performances served as the opening weekend for her Little Miss Drama Tour, featuring a 37-song setlist and elaborate stage production that included the artist being suspended above the audience. 37 songs, suspended above the audience. This is not a laid-back performance where the artist stands at a microphone. This is full production. The concerts featured several guest appearances, including performances by Glorilla, Kehlani, Tyla, and Blueface. And the reviews have been strong. The Little Miss Drama Tour received widespread acclaim from music critics, who lauded the production's ambition, Cardi B's stamina, and the show's theatrical scale. Critics noticed her stamina. They called it ambitious. They compared it to a theatrical event, rather than a standard concert. Fan reactions have matched the critical response. Cardi put on an amazing show for nearly 2 hours and performed all her greatest hits. along with her new album, Am I the Drama, which was really good. Nearly 2 hours, every night, city after city. The set list featured about 37 songs, and the show lasted roughly 2 hours. Cardi performed more than a dozen songs from her most recent album, Am I the Drama, as well as her iconic hits like Bodak Yellow, Bartier Cardi, I Like It, and Money. And then came Denver, show number 14, a sold-out arena, an elevation of 5,280 feet, and a rapper with asthma who refused to stop. The album this tour supports, Am I the Drama, is itself a landmark. Am I the Drama is the second studio album by American rapper Cardi B. It was released on September 19, 2025 by Atlantic Records. It serves as the follow-up to her debut album, Invasion of Privacy, 2018. It came 7 years after her debut. Cardi B achieved her second consecutive #1 album in the country, while earning the biggest sales week for an R&B hip-hop album by a woman in 2025. She also became the only female rapper in history to have her first 2 albums debut atop the Billboard 200. Additionally, the album was certified platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America, RIAA, on its first day of release. So the pressure to deliver on this tour is not just about putting on a good show. It is about validating one of the most successful rap albums in recent history. It is about proving she can carry an arena tour. And she is doing all of that with lungs that have been fighting her since she was a child. Cardi B is currently touring the US in support of her latest album, Am I the Drama, which came out last September. The tour kicked off in February, just a couple months after her 4th child was born in early November. That is another layer. Her 4th child was born in November 2025. She started touring in February 2026. That is roughly 3 months between giving birth and hitting the road for the most demanding tour of her life. For anyone, that is fast. For someone with asthma, it is a test of will. What happened in Denver is not the first time Cardi B has faced a health scare that made headlines. There is a pattern here, and it goes back years. In October 2024, Cardi B was hospitalized with a medical emergency. Cardi B has canceled an upcoming performance after she was hospitalized a few days ago due to a medical emergency. The rapper posted a note on her social media accounts this afternoon, announcing the cancellation of her performance at this weekend's One Music Fest event scheduled to take place in Atlanta. She shared the news herself on Instagram. I am so sad to share this news, but I've been in the hospital recovering from a medical emergency the last couple of days, and I won't be able to perform at One Music Fest, she wrote. Cardi B did not share details about her medical emergency that led to her hospitalization. The specifics were never made public, but the timing raised a lot of questions. Cardi's hospitalization comes a month after she welcomed her 3rd child with ex-Offset. She had given birth to her 3rd child with Offset just weeks before. And while the 32-year-old didn't provide further details about her condition, fans are speculating it's because Cardi didn't take adequate time to rest after giving birth. Cardi responded to the speculation herself. Cardi addressed the comment by explaining that this postpartum recovery feels different from her previous ones. This is my 3rd baby and postpartum is a little different from my first 2, she replied. And before that hospitalization, there was another scare during her pregnancy. Months ago, in an interview with X Spaces, Cardi B revealed, I was going down the stairs and I slipped a little. I practically fell, but I was trying to prevent myself from falling, so I was holding myself on the railing. My foot still slipped, and I kind of busted my ass. I felt a weird jerk, like a pop, and I couldn't get up really. The consequences of that fall were serious. According to Cardi, the accident almost cost me my little one, since she was experiencing contractions every 2 minutes for a whole 24 hours, she elaborated. So they had to monitor me, and I was in a lot of pain. I couldn't move for 2 days straight. Once she was cleared for a hospital discharge, Cardi was put on bed rest and had to do therapy. Then there was the incident in 2024 when Cardi had an asthma attack on Instagram Live while eating wax candy. That moment went viral too. It was a reminder that asthma does not wait for convenient moments. It can hit at any time, while eating, while sleeping, while performing in front of 18,000 people at a sold-out arena in Denver. And going back further, she pulled out of Bruno Mars's 2018 tour after feeling extremely weak. That was after giving birth to her daughter Culture. After giving birth to daughter Culture, Cardi had a serious battle with postpartum depression. So the pattern is there: pregnancy, childbirth, and then the physical demands of performing. That combination has hit Cardi hard more than once, and each time, her asthma is part of the equation. Now in 2026, she is doing it again. 4th child born in November. Tour starts in February. 30-plus arena dates, a 37-song set list, 2-hour shows, and an oxygen mask in Denver. The question is not whether Cardi B is tough enough to keep going. She has proven that over and over again. The question is whether her body can sustain this pace. Asthma is unpredictable. Severe asthma therapy is essential because uncontrolled asthma can lead to hospitalization or life-threatening complications. And when you layer altitude, physical exertion, recent childbirth, and the stress of touring on top of a chronic respiratory condition, the risk goes up. The key is early diagnosis, regular follow-ups, and medication adherence. That is what the medical community says. And for someone in Cardi's position, performing at the level she performs at, that means having an oxygen tank backstage is not an overreaction. It is a necessity. So where does all of this leave Cardi B? As of right now, the tour continues. Cardi B gets a couple days to catch her breath before the next show on Thursday in Minneapolis. The schedule moves forward. Minneapolis is next, then Indianapolis, then more cities. The tour commenced on February 11th, 2026 in Palm Desert, California, and will conclude on April 18th of the same year in Atlanta, Georgia, consisting of 35 concerts. That means, as of the Denver show, Cardi is roughly at the midpoint. She has done 14 sold-out shows. She has roughly 20 more to go, and the shows she has left are not small. Madison Square Garden, State Farm Arena in Atlanta. These are arenas that hold tens of thousands of people. The energy, the production, the physical demand, none of that decreases. If anything, the expectations grow as the tour reaches its biggest markets. Now, Cardi has not made any public statements suggesting she plans to cancel or reduce dates because of what happened in Denver. In fact, everything she has shown so far suggests the opposite. She finished the Denver show. She posted the oxygen mask footage herself on her own Instagram. She did not try to hide it. She treated it like part of the experience. This is what it takes. And that fits who Cardi B is. From the beginning, she has been the person who does not stop. When Cardi was 18, she attended Borough of Manhattan Community College while working at Amish Market in Tribeca to make ends meet. Work and classes were during the day, and she often didn't have enough money to both take the train and eat, so she had to go hours and hours without eating. As Cardi put it, I was poor as hell. I was living with my ex-boyfriend that was beating my ass. I had to drop out of school. At age 18, Cardi dropped out of school and got fired from her job, so she started working at New York Doll's Gentlemen's Club. She went from the Bronx to love and hip-hop. Cardi's growing Instagram and Twitter followers are to thank for getting her cast on the hit VH1 reality series Love and Hip Hop. Cardi B came onto our radar via social media. When we saw her on tape, she was just fantastic. Mona Scott Young, Love and Hip Hop's executive producer, revealed. Her personality just exploded on screen, and she had all of these Cardiisms that made her so unique that we just knew she was going to be a star. She went from Love and Hip Hop to Bodak Yellow. Cardi released her major label debut single, Bodak Yellow, in the summer of 2017, and it soon topped the Billboard Hot 100 for 3 consecutive weeks, making her the second female rapper to earn a solo #1 hit in the 21st century. She went from Bodak Yellow to a Grammy. The studio set has since been certified quadruple platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America, RIAA, and also earned the superstar her first Grammy for Best Rap Album. And she went from a 7-year wait for a sophomore album to Am I the Drama, which debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and broke records. Am I the Drama debuted at #1 on the US Billboard 200, marking Cardi B's second consecutive album to debut atop the chart, and making her the only female rapper in history have her first 2 albums debut atop the Billboard 200. Stopping is not in her nature, but neither is being reckless. Cardi has shown throughout her career that she knows when to pause. She pulled out of the Bruno Mars tour in 2018. She canceled the One Music Fest date in 2024. She is not someone who blindly pushes forward at the expense of her health. She makes decisions. So the Denver oxygen mask moment is not the end of the conversation. It is part of the conversation. It is a reminder that Cardi B is performing at an elite level while carrying a condition that most people would use as an excuse not to try. She is not using it as an excuse. She is carrying an oxygen tank and going back on stage. Asthma is one of the most common chronic non-communicable diseases that affects over 260 million people. Cardi is one of 260 million, but she might be the only one of those 260 million who just sold out 14 consecutive arenas, performed 37 songs a night, and then strapped on an oxygen mask in Denver and went right back out to finish the show. The tour has roughly 20 dates left. The question now is not whether she can do it. She has already proven she can. The question is what it costs her, and only she knows the answer to that. What we do know is this. Cardi B has had asthma her whole life. She has been hospitalized before. She has faced health scares during pregnancies, after pregnancies, and now during a tour. And each time she has come back. Denver was another chapter. It was not the last one. The Little Miss Drama Tour continues. Cardi B continues. The oxygen mask goes backstage, and the show goes on.